Hey folks, Lenny Lawson here, the car guru, and I have a question for you. Have you ever been broken down on the side of the road? I have, and had a good friend call me last night. That was, night before last, Sunday night, and said, "Hey Lenny, Nicole is broken down." I said, "Where?" "In Indiana." Well, she's really close to Louisville. Louisville, that's how we say it down here in the South, not Louisville. That would be in Kentucky, where Churchill Downs is. The Kentucky Derby. Come on. Okay. So she's broken down. She's at a rest stop, not at an interchange, but at a rest stop. And he wants me to call her. So I call her. "Nicole, what's up?" She says, "Oh, this vehicle has gone into limp mode." And I said, "Okay. What's it saying?" "It says transmission fault." "Well, will it start?" "Yes." "Well, can you drive it?" "Yes, at a slow speed." "Well, that's not great." "How slow?" And she wasn't sure, maybe 45. "Are you close to an exit?" Yes, she said she was. I said, "Okay, let's do something. Let's Google and see who the closest Nissan dealer is," because she's driving a Nissan Pathfinder, a 2022 model that she didn't buy from me, but that's beside the point. So she Googled it, and it was like a couple exits down, not too far. I said, "Do you think you can get there?" "I believe I can." "If there's any doubt, you need to call the wrecker company." "No, it'll go. It just won't go very fast." I said, "Okay, well, get to that dealer, and then call me. Let me know what you find," because it was after hours. And I said, "Well, call me when you get there." And so she did, and luckily, right beside the Nissan store, within walking distance, was a nice hotel. So she was able to drop off the vehicle. They did have a nighttime drop-off box, so she filled out the little form, attached her keys, and put it in the box, and then walked to the hotel. So far, so good. I said, "I will call the Nissan dealer first thing in the morning," which I did. And they said, "Yes, we received the vehicle. It will not even get out of park. It'll start, but will not get out of park. So this is going to be maybe 2 or 3 days before we can get to it, maybe a week or so before we can fix it." I called Nicole back. I said, "Nicole, you're going to have to rent a car to get the rest of the way home." She lives near Knoxville, Tennessee. So from that standpoint, it turned out pretty good. Now, she didn't have roadside assistance. I did have her call roadside assistance. Well, she had it when she bought the vehicle, but it's out of warranty now, so the roadside assistance has expired. I said, "Did you buy an extended warranty or a service contract?" "Yes, we did." So she got that out, sent it to me. It doesn't say anything about roadside assistance, but most of those plans cover roadside assistance after the manufacturer's roadside assistance expires, which expires at the end of the manufacturer's warranty. So if you have a 3-year, 50,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty from the manufacturer, then typically roadside assistance goes along with that. This is something that I would like to know when I buy a car. Is roadside assistance included? "Yeah, all you have to do is call the 800 number. Well, read the warranty book, the owner's manual, to double-check that before you leave the store. A lot of people have AAA. What's that cost? Let's see. I think I looked that up. I was just curious. AAA is about $100 a year, I believe. Well, they have different plans, and they have a AAA Classic is $79 a year. AAA Plus is $117 a year. And then the best plan they have is called AAA Premier, and it's $144. Now, according to ChatGPT, the Plus plan is the sweet spot for roadside assistance because it includes towing up to 100 miles. Let's see, what else does it cover? Fuel delivery, jump starts, flat tire service, lockout assistance, and other benefits. So that's pretty good. There are other companies. Like I said, some of service contract companies offer roadside assistance. First place I'm going to call is the factory, the manufacturer. I'm going to call them. Now, if somebody shows up and you're outside the manufacturer's warranty and didn't buy an extended service contract and don't have AAA, then you're going to have to pay for the tow job. You're going to have to pay for the rental car. You're going to have to pay for whatever anybody does. I think that's pretty cheap insurance. I believe I'd join AAA. I really do. And a lot of people have. I think that's probably a good choice. But roadside assistance is who I'm going to call first. I'm going to try to find a Nissan dealer. I do not want my Nissan or my Honda or my Mercedes-Benz or Lexus towed to a tire store or to an independent shop. I want to go to the dealership, especially if it's a situation like this. Flat tire, different story. A tire store is probably the better option. So there's lots of people that can rescue you. You just don't know where they're going to take you. It's just like when my wife and I went to Jamaica. We shouldn't have left the resort. That was a big mistake. Because the guy that we jumped in a taxi, nice gentleman, somewhat of a language barrier. He said he'll take us on a nice little tour. His first stop was at a jewelry store. He said, "Oh, this is a nice souvenir shop." I said, "Well, we really don't want any jewelry. We just wanted to see the island." "Yeah, just go in here and he'll give you something to drink." So we felt a little pressured. Went in there, ended up buying a pair of earrings. For my wife. And so that was a setup, right? So sometimes when you get picked up by somebody, they're going to take you to somebody that will pay them a bonus if they bring the car to that particular place. So I'm going to a new car dealer, and that's what she did. So I did call. It's going to be a while. She's renting a car to come back home. And when they find out what the problem is, she's got to take that trek. That's probably 200 miles, 250 maybe, to get from Knoxville to Louisville to pick up the car, which you will probably trade, hopefully with me. Okay, I'll be back in just 1 minute. All right, I am back. Let's talk about limp mode for a second. A lot of manufacturers use different names for it. Limp home mode, fail-safe mode, reduced power mode, powertrain protection mode. There are probably some more. But it's become common because electronic throttle control, computer-controlled transmissions, turbocharging, hybrids, they can recognize a problem, or let's put it this way, a potential problem before it gets worse. So what limp does is basically reduces the power by controlling the throttle, and it allows you to get someplace like to handle the emergency. But it's not for driving another 100 or 200 miles. That's not what it's for, because the vehicle will probably shut down and you could do damage if you continue driving. It will reduce the speed, like I say. It'll reduce the potential RPMs that the engine can get to. Ford and Lincoln call it fail-safe. Nissan Infiniti calls it fail-safe or protection mode. General Motors just has reduced engine power. Let's see. Toyota and Lexus say fail-safe control, reduced engine, or hybrid system performance. Honda, it'll flash powertrain protection. Let's see. Hyundai, Kia, Genesis says engine transmission protection. So again, why is it telling you this? Well, because the vehicle is not going to perform at full potential. It's going to limit the RPM. It could absolutely lock out the automatic transmission, which is the case right now with Nicole's vehicle. It could prevent an upshift or a downshift. I mean, you could be stuck in first gear. It refuses to go on any other gear. If it does, you are in limp mode. It could reduce the turbocharger boost. It could, if you're driving a hybrid or an EV, it could disable certain functions in the vehicle, restrict your speed to like 25 or 45, and in a really serious condition, eventually prevent continued driving altogether. It's just going to stop. Does it mean that you have a very expensive problem with your vehicle? No, it does not. It could be a sensor. But the computer is sending you a message, and it's saying, I have detected a problem, It could be significant enough that I am going to limit the operation to protect your investment. So let's talk about what could cause it. Number one, transmission fault. The vehicle has detected that the transmission is slipping. You know how when you pull out, you give it gas and it just doesn't want to go, and then all of a sudden it just kind of slides into gear instead of being very precise? That's going to put you in limp mode. A typical driver experience here is that it's stuck in one gear, or it's shifting really hard, won't upshift. That's how you're going to know. Number two, electronic throttle body fault. That's where the throttle position, your foot, does not agree with the commanded position. There's a sensor there that detects how hard you're pushing on that throttle and what you're trying to do. And it's all sent to a computer, which sends it to the throttle body. And that's what controls the amount of fuel going into the intake. A similar fault would be what they call an accelerator pedal sensor, which again, conflicting signals. There's a map sensor, and it basically measures the airflow that's going into your engine. So you got fuel coming in and you got air coming in, and if either of those are way out of whack, then it's going to put you in limp mode. Problems with the turbocharger, if the vehicle is overheating, if the coolant temperature reaches a dangerous level. See, old vehicles, you just see a bunch of steam coming out from underneath your vehicle. Now, if it gets too hot, if it's a modern vehicle, then it's going to go into limp mode, and it's going to put you over on the side of the road. It may say, stop vehicle now. The air conditioning may shut off if it's overheating. The engine power will be reduced. It's going to try to recover if it can. But if it can't, then you're going to be on the side of the road. If you have low oil pressure, that's another thing. Potential engine lubrication problem, you'll get a warning message. Power will be restricted, or it'll just shut off your engine before it does any damage. Now, I had one of my son's girlfriends. She bought a Mazda CX-5 from us when we were a Mazda dealer, and she lived in another town and took it to Walmart to get the oil changed. Well, some technician at Walmart didn't get the oil filter on. And it was on, but just he didn't tighten it. And it came off in a very short period of time, vibrated off. She lost all of her oil, ignored her lights, destroyed her engine. Who paid that bill? Walmart. They sent one of their representatives to the dealership. We left it just like it was. I sent a rollback over to pick the vehicle up, brought it to my dealership. It was about a 30-mile trip. Put it up on a lift, and as soon as we took the cover that covers the bottom of the engine, it's like a shield, we took that loose, the oil filter fell out onto the floor. There was oil all over everything, and the engine was locked up. That engine didn't have a time to go into limp mode because it was a catastrophic failure, and she ignored all of her lights and just kept driving. Don't do that. If you get your oil changed someplace and then all of a sudden a light comes on, pull over. Get on the side of the road. And if you know how, and you should at this point, pop the hood, find the dipstick, and check your oil, because it's very possible they didn't put any oil in it. And call the business that you just left and tell them what happened. Let it be their problem, and they'll come to the rescue, hopefully. But if you drive it home, let's say that, I don't know, they didn't leave the oil filter loose. They did put some oil in it. But you don't get it home and check the oil. That's something that I always do. Whenever I get I don't care if it is my own dealership. When I get to the house, I'm going to let that thing cool off, and I'm going to pull the dipstick and make sure it's at the full mark. I do that with my lawnmowers. If I have my pressure washer that my wife loves to use so much, I check the oil before I start the thing. I want to make sure it has oil in it, and you should too. Okay, what else is going to trigger the light misfire? Severe or repeated cylinder misfires. That's where the spark and the fuel are not igniting inside the cylinder. And you'll feel the vehicle shaking, vibrating, and it will put it in limp mode. If there's a fuel pressure problem, if the transmission is overheating, If there is an emissions fault, like diesels use this dealer particulate filter, and if it senses a problem gets stopped up, then it will reduce power and limit RPM. If there's a problem with the analog braking system, I started using an acronym, ABS, anti-lock braking system or traction control fault. That means that you could have a bad wheel speed sensor. That's how the analog brakes and the traction control know what to do, is there's a sensor in the wheel. That is every wheel. And it tells the computer system how fast that particular wheel is spinning in relation to the others. If one wheel is spinning faster than the others, then it knows that it has to send more power to the wheel that has better traction. If that system is malfunctioning, it's possible that you could go into limp mode. I had an F-150? It was either an F-150 or an F-250. Went into limp mode on me on my driveway. And come to find out, the battery had low voltage, and it was still under warranty. I mean, the vehicle only had like 5,000 miles on it, but it went into limp mode, had all kinds of warning lights going. I had to call my service manager. What's going on? And he calmed me down, said, well, it's probably a voltage problem. Can you get it to the dealership? And I said, I believe I can. So I limped to the dealership, and they replaced the battery under warranty. Now, there are a lot of computers on your vehicle, all kinds of modules. That's what the techs call them, modules. And they control everything from your stereo system to your gauges to your power windows. Everything is controlled by a computer module. It's not like it used to be. And so if there are computers that aren't communicating properly with each other, it could be due to a wire that's been eaten by a mouse. That'll do it. Or just a short of some kind, some type of an electrical snafu, then that can put you in limp mode. And then finally, the hybrid or EV system, which, there's a lot of hybrids out there. But if the battery, inverter, motor, or a thermal management problem, they create a lot of heat. Those batteries get hot. And if it gets too hot, if the cooling system for the battery fails, then there's like antifreeze that circulates through the entire battery on an EV or a hybrid. I shouldn't call it antifreeze. It's coolant. That would make more sense. Same thing, but under this circumstance, we're trying to control heat. So again, reduced power, limited speed. So the important distinction I'd like to make here is that there are 3 levels that customers tend to lump together as limp mode. Level 1, you just have reduced performance. Level 2, you've got a light that says limp home or fail safe, and performance is substantially restricted. In other words, on a transmission, it wouldn't get out of first gear. So, maybe 25 miles an hour is your maximum speed. And then level 3, that is a 5-alarm fire right there. That's stop driving. Like any oil pressure warning, any serious overheating, any really severe misfires, even certain transmission failures. Don't try to limp it to the shop. Pull it over, call roadside assistance, find a hotel. I'll be back in just 1 minute. Okay, I am back. Folks, there are some circumstances where if your vehicle goes into limp mode, if you shut it off, sit there for a few minutes, start it back up, it goes out of limp mode. This has happened. Also, I've had people tell me that if they disconnect the battery and just cut off all juice, then sometimes it'll go out of limp mode. Not sure I'd recommend that. I would call the dealer first before I do anything like that, because I don't want to harm anything. I don't want to do anything that is going to increase my bill at the dealership or hurt my car. I just don't want to hurt my vehicle. I want it to last. And these are, I guess, some of the dilemmas that we face as modern car owners. I read the other day that the average car payment in this country just exceeded, for the first time ever, $800. $808 is the average car payment right now. And the average car term is somewhere between 72 and 84 months. How do people do it? And down payments have gone down. People don't have money on average. So because they don't have money and they don't have equity in their trade-ins, we talked about that the other day, they owe more on their vehicle than it's worth. So they go in and they say, okay, well, I guess we can handle a more monthly payment. And then they realize that they can't because they forgot to take into account the extra cost of insurance. Insurance has gone up. Before you buy any car, call your agent, give them the VIN number, and find out what the insurance is going to cost. And then you might have to shop around before you can find one that's palatable. Make sure you check the fuel economy ratings. If you're going from a hybrid Prius into a Ford Bronco, you're going to be spending a whole lot more on gasoline. And then find out what the maintenance costs. If you go from a Kia Telluride to a Mercedes GLE, then get ready when you go in to get the oil changed, because that $100 oil change is now $350 if you're lucky. So many other considerations when you buy a car. But too many people go in and say, well, yeah, we can handle 808. Yeah, I think we can cut back and make that happen. And then they find their insurance goes up $500 because of the type of vehicle that it is. So please do that. If you have any questions about this kind of stuff, this is the place you can turn to. You can text me on my cell phone at 423-552-2020 with your automotive questions or emergencies or whatever. Or you can send me an email to LennyLawson2020 @gmail.com. And I'll see you next time on the next My Car Guru.